take us home and to take the bridge from where Jeremy had us on your why, on Remy, the coach, the realist, talking about the real why of your customer, I'd like to introduce our chief storyteller, take us home on how to communicate that message, Lewis Richardson.
Thanks. Thanks, Dad. We told him he was the adult supervisor of the adult leadership. In fact, I think it was W.C. Fields that said, never follow children or animal acts. And I'm trying to figure out who's the child and who's the animal act here. But anyway, but Jeremy has challenged us already to find out what is our why. What is our why? And Perry just did a wonderful job of explaining how you go about finding your customer's why. But armed with that information, it's not enough. You have to understand how are you going to communicate that why. How are you going to actually make some money out of this? How are you actually going to transfer that knowledge to them? Now, we believe that when we have an opportunity for a customer to make a decision, that what they do is they say, this is a decision I need to make. And so now I'm going to bring people in, and I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to understand your requirements and whatever. And then at some point in the future, I will make the decision. And actually, that's not the way the human brain works. We survive as humans because our brains are wired to make decisions almost immediately. We make decisions based on our history and what we know and what we see. It's that first impression. It's all those things that we know, right? And the other thing about our brains and we as humans is that our brains always try to prove that we're right. So I'm going to make a decision early, and then I'm going to look for facts as to why I'm right. I'm not going to look for reasons why I'm wrong. I'm going to look for reasons why I'm right. It truly is. We make decisions with our heart and with what we know from our past, and then we justify them with our mind. If you're looking at the screen now, you're probably looking and saying, okay, what does that mean to me? Whether you realize it or not, your brain is looking at the patterns and saying, what is that? Is there something familiar there? And you're turning kind of sideways and you're trying to figure out what actually is that? And unless you watched a recent TED Talk where this actually image was used, you may not know what this is. We are visual learners. We're visual people. We like to see these things and we're going, okay, what is that? Now, if I add a little bit of color to that, this will pop something into my memory. And now you look at this and say, now I know the concept. I actually can relax a little bit. When we talk to customers, often we do a few things that are maybe not the best in the best interest. There's 3 hazards that I'm going to speak to. The first one is the hazard of confusion. We've heard confusion a couple of times this morning. It doesn't matter what you say. It's what the customer understands. I could stand in front of you and present that black and white image all day. I could tell you about the curves and the circles and whatever. But in your mind, you're trying to somehow snap that into something that's relevant to you, something from your history, something that you've seen or heard, and it doesn't relate. And because of that, you're spending all your energy trying to figure that out, and I'm just talking to you. In the 1990s, a Stanford graduate student did a study. And she took a room, much smaller than this, but she took a room and she said, okay, so this half of the room over here, you are going to be tappers. Tappers. You are going to be listeners. So what we're going to do with the tappers, we're going to give you a list of 10, maybe 12 very popular tunes, songs, things that everyone would understand, like Happy Birthday to You is one. And your job then is to tap that in such a way that the listeners will guess it. So Happy Birthday to You is tap, 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 okay? And then they're going to guess that. Before we get started too, what do you think your success rate is going to be? And the experiment that she had, they guessed around 50%, 1 in 2, okay? They did 120 experiments, okay, 120 tries. 3 guessed properly. That's a 1 in 40 response rate. What was the difference? 1 in 2, 1 in 40, what happened? If I tell you happy birthday to you, and what it was called is she actually termed this the curse of knowledge. If I tell you the song is happy birthday to you, and then I tap, 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 you can just imagine happy birthday to you. But what if I did tap, 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 anyone? I'm just actually trying, this is the biggest audience I've ever tried this in. Anyone hear Hey Jude? Hey Jude, all right, Hey Jude, Beatles song. Now listen, tap, 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 tap. You hear it, okay? It's the curse of knowledge. We live and breathe the stuff we do. The technology, the problems. We have morning conversations with our spouses and loved ones they don't want to hear, but we talk about this stuff at night. We go to conference calls and conventions and conferences, and we read all this material, and we understand that we are so knowledgeable. And I have observed us standing in front of customers, taking all that knowledge and just telling them, and they're confused. Have you ever had that happen? You're talking to a customer, and they're going, like looking at the picture. What is that? I've done this experiment with smaller groups, and one of the things I found interesting was my tappers. When you're tapping and the person wasn't getting it, you know what they did? They tapped harder. Tap, 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 tap. Like that's going to work. I've watched salespeople explain something to a customer, and they're going, and then so what do? They say it again, maybe with more vigor. Maybe they posture up a little bit. It's amazing how much we do this. If you want to fight confusion, you're going to need to have clarity. Clarity. Now, we talked about workbooks. You are going to use your workbooks right now. If you don't have a workbook, at least grab a piece of paper, okay? Because this is a learning thing, okay? On page 11, at the bottom, there's a little 3x3 matrix. You can just draw 3x3 if you don't have a piece of paper, if you're on an iPad, whatever it is, 3x3. In the first column, because we're talking about knowledge and what you know, I want you to list 3 WCE solutions that you know well, the things that you know best. Now, it could be a solution. If you're at the category level, you can put a category. If you're new, maybe you just list 1. If you've been around for a while, maybe there's 3 things you feel very comfortable about, but 3 things, right down that first column. Okay? The reason we're doing this, too, because, by the way, if you ever get caught tapping, it's probably on those subjects, because those are the subjects that you know really well. Because the second hazard that we have is complication. Just because you can say something doesn't mean you have to. Okay? I've watched us, and we're among friends here, okay? I've watched us go on and on and on. And the whole time the customer is going, I'm not getting it. But maybe if we say more, you'll understand it. It's actually, there's a quote by a French mathematician, I forget his name, but he said, perfection is not achieved when there's nothing left to add. It's achieved when there's nothing left to take away. So now we're going to do a little exercise. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the concept of the 6-word novel. Clap if you've heard the 6-word novel. I can't see hands. Some? Okay, there's a few. Wonderful. My literary mind's in the room. Legend has it that the 6-word novel was started by this gentleman, Ernest Hemingway. He was in a bar in New York City with some of his writer friends, and he wagered them. He said, I bet you I can write a meaningful, thought-provoking novel using only 6 words. And they all put their money on the table, and he took their money away when he wrote that. As you read those 6 words, your mind is engaged. You're thinking, you're imagining, especially after Jeremy. God bless you. I have no idea how you got through that this morning. I think of this, and I think of, what does that mean? What was that like? What are those people feeling? 6 words, okay? To fight complication, you need brevity. People are wanting to hear what you have to say, but they want to hear it and they want to understand it. They don't want to hear the whole thing. Just tell me what the main parts. So remember that little matrix we had, the 3 things that you know best? In that next column, I want you to come up with 6 words that best describe that thing to the left. This will take a second. Think about it. How would you describe her? What's the value proposition? Or what might you say that would cause someone to go, that's interesting? These are your 6 words. Now, I will also challenge you that whether you finish this today while we're sitting here, I'm going to get in your heads, okay? I want you to do this at night, in the morning, and as you drive to work, or whatever it is, I want you to be thinking, what's the 6 words? What's the 6 words? And by the way, if you ever look at your PowerPoint presentations, look at that entire slide and say, what could I say in 6 words rather than all of that? And then when you get that done, erase the slide, put 6 words up, a big picture of a kid or something, and do that. 6-word novel, all right? I'll give you some examples, not to throw away any ideas that you might have, but I actually wrote a blog article, and I put all of the Watson customer engagement, the categories, and then solutions, and I asked people for some assistance, and I love some of these. My mentor, Carolyn Lane, spot trends, personalized engagement, drive collaboration, customer experience analytics. You came, we saw, and you conquered. Content management without the bad bits. I'm guessing David, maybe he's from the UK. I don't think we use bad bits around here, but anyway. Back office and every client's front topic. Marketing insights. Covers aren't enough. Read the books. That comes from that you can tell a book by a cover. Well, you can't tell a customer just by the cover. You got to read the book. Supply chain insights. Don't wait for the thunder. Avoid lightning. They say you never hear the lightning strike that hits you, right? In supply chain, they're always like the thunder. Now, where did the lightning strike? It's like, where did it go? Well, don't look for the thunder. Find the lightning and get rid of that. These are all clever things, but you need to have these kind of things because if you're standing in front of somebody and they say, what is it you do? We say, well, we'll help you don't wait for the thunder. We help you avoid lightning. They're going to listen. They're going to know more. Because the last hazard of ours is just informing. We're very good about informing people. And we're going to get on a lot more of this tomorrow. I have a storytelling session with you guys that I'm really excited about doing, which we'll get into this deeper. But people, for the most part, don't like to be sold to, but they love to buy. Your job is to present the why in a way that they'll actually buy it. Jeffrey Gitomer has this quote, pull on the heart and the wallet pops out. I will prove this to you. Any of you in the room have or have had small children? How many deals do they close? Every frickin' deal they possibly can. It's like they close every deal, right? I have he's a 7-year-old grandson, and when he was 3, he did not approach me one day and said, Papa, I need to be stronger. I need to have eye-hand coordination. I need composition and balance. I'd like to get some strength training and be outside in the open in the sunshine. Therefore, I think you need to build me a play set. That was not it, by the way, okay? He just walked up to me, Papa, can I have a play set? And the next weekend, his dad and I were out in the yard with lumber and all kinds of things, building this kid a play set. Why? Because he knew right where my heart is. Any of you have daughters, they'll just, you pull on the heart and just wallets come flying out. The same thing happens with your customer. If you know where their heart is, if you know what the heart matter is, then you can describe that to them and you can help them understand that. And you can show, first of all, that you understand it. So remember that matrix, 3 solutions you know best, 6 words. Now in the right column, just simplify. What's the heart matter? What am I really doing here? Okay? What am I actually solving? I'm saving someone's life from their career because they're overworked. I'm helping people. With V9, for instance, I'm helping Brian. Brian's some data management guy or some data officer, and he's spending all of his time and all of his people's time just trying to keep things up and running. And I'm going to change his life so that instead of just keeping things up and running, he's going to be able to do things that are important and things that are innovative rather than just the operational stuff. If you want to fight informing, you need story. So in the last little few minutes I have, we're going to do another exercise, okay? Whiteboarding. I'm listening for the reaction because I know I'm going to get a lot of this. Oh my God, we did whiteboarding. That doesn't work. It's better just to smell the markers than to actually go do this stuff, right? Believe me, whiteboarding can be extremely effective. And now many of you are probably saying, well, I'm not an artist and I don't know how to draw anything. And I can't draw, and nobody understands anything, and they make fun of me, okay? I am going to prove to you in the next few minutes that all of you are artists. Pablo Picasso actually said, we're all born artists. The challenge is to remain an artist as we grow up. So again, in your workbooks, flip the page. I'm sorry, if you don't have your workbook in front of you, shame on you. You're going to have to write these things out. There should be a table. 13 elements to the left. These written out, heart, money sign, happy face, eye, exclamation point. Okay? And then next to it, there's a little space for you to draw that. Please remember that you're going to be asked to draw this in just a minute, but please remember that when you're drawing this, it's not a matter of you drawing something and say, guess what this is. When you're whiteboarding, you're talking. So if you say, we do work around the globe, so what you draw, they're kind of expecting something that looks like a globe. So it doesn't have to be fantastic, okay? It just has to look kind of like a globe. I'm going to give you 60 seconds, and I want each of you to try to draw as many of those 13 items as you can. If you come to one you can't draw, skip it, like any test, move on, and we have time left, come back. 60 seconds starting now. I should have had Jeopardy music going. Page 11, 12, I think, it's the next page. If you don't have a page, just look up here on the screen and just draw these things as you see them. This is the quietest you guys have been all day. I've done this with kids, and normally they're going, I need a crayon. I need a red. About 10 more seconds. Okay, folks, pens down. How many of you, and I'm glad the lights are up a little bit, how many of you actually did all 13? You got all 13 done. I'm proud of you. Your drawings I'm looking forward to seeing your drawings. Okay, so here's what I want you to do, and I want you to do this in absolute silence, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I want you to take your workbook and trade it with the person sitting next to you. Quiet. The reason I say quiet is because when I do this with kids, they're always like, look what I've done. When I do this with adults, they're always like, oh, please excuse this. This is really this is a horse. That really looks like a chicken. I mean, they're trying to, excuse themselves. All right, so now everyone has a workbook that is not theirs. I want you to look at those pictures and determine whether or not they resemble, in some nature, the things that are listed here. The thing that looks like an eyeball looks like an eyeball. The thing that looks like a truck looks like kind of like a truck. Okay? Now I'm going to ask you to judge. How many of you, there's no shame in this. Come on, folks, all right? There's no shame. We're all in this together. I love this. By the way, take these home and pin them on your refrigerator. It's wonderful. Okay. How many of you would say that the person of whose picture you're looking at now, that you understand their pictures? Raise your arms, raise your hands. Look around you, folks. This is a room full of artists, okay? Now raise your hand, drop your hands, trade books back, okay? You are now armed with everything that you need in order to tell the WCE 90-second napkin story. I'm first going to apologize for the napkin story because it was actually just my attempt to try to figure something out one night, and I sent it to Brian Costable and said, what do you think about this? And the next thing I know, it's like viral, and I think I could have done that better and whatever, but people said, no, I like it the way it is, and I'm so thankful that Richard shared it this morning. And yes, you're going to see it again, but the reason you're going to see it again is because while it's being played, there's also in your workbook, I think even the script for you, if you ever want to do it yourself, but please, my goal is not for you just to recite everything I said or recite everything I did. It's to build this into your own. But for the next 90 seconds, I'm going to turn the film on and let it run. I want you to draw it. Okay, you've got a little box there. I want you to draw the whiteboard story, okay?
If you're in business, you have customers. They may be individuals or they may be other businesses. But in either case, there are 3 things you need to know and 3 responsibilities you own. First, you have to know who they are, because it's on you to respectfully reach them. You need to know what they're looking at. Well, what do they think is important? And in today's fast-paced life, what's the best time to capture their attention? This requires personalized marketing that leverages analytics and insights to help you know your customer's heart. After all, we make decisions with our heart, and then we justify them with our mind, which actually leads us to our second point. You have to know what they want. People don't like to be sold to, but they love to buy. It's on you to give them the best opportunity to buy. That means that no matter if they're in your store or reaching you on their computer or maybe they're on their mobile device, you have to give them individualized pricing and promotional offerings and guide them through their entire purchasing process. But the journey's not over there. You have to know what they expect. You have to always meet or exceed their expectations. And the bar of your customers' expectations is raised to their latest epic experience. So meeting and exceeding those expectations require management and proactive oversight of a very complex network of suppliers, vendors, and partners, where a failure in any one node can mean a disastrous experience for your customer. Sometimes it's as simple as moving a package across town, but more often it requires a global supply chain network. And if you do all that right, you earn the privilege to know more about your customer and repeat the cycle. This is what we do. We're Watson Customer Engagement.
Okay. You now are armed. And the reason I want you to have this is this reason. You've done this. You're preparing. You have 1 hour in front of a group of people that includes the decision maker. You have your PowerPoint presentation. You got your demo ready. You're all set. You come into the room, and the CEO or whoever it is that's going to make the decision says, I'm glad you're here, but look, I've got 5 minutes. What you got? If they're looking for the Watson story, You should just, the Watson Customer Engagement Story, you should just say, hang on just a minute, let me show that to you. And you should start drawing. For those of you who don't know anything about whiteboarding, the truth of the matter is the purpose of this whiteboard is not for you to draw the message. The truth of this is for you to draw the customer's why. And if they balk at that, like Perry said earlier, they're like, but that's not what we do. You go, give them the pen. Would you please help me? Draw what you got. They will come up to the board. They will draw something. You're now gaining their confidence. You're understanding what they're doing. And by the way, take a picture of that whiteboard before you leave, because that's their why. Successful whiteboard sessions end with you sitting down and the customer having the pen in their hand. Okay, that's the purpose for this. But this is to get the conversation started. So as you go forward, don't let people be confused. Be clear. Don't overcomplicate things. We live at the intersection between technology, which is extremely complicated, and human beings, which, my God, are so complicated, and we're right there, right where they cross. It's so easy for this to be so complicated. Don't let it be complex or complicated. Be brief. Know the right things to say. And I would encourage you to use story. And as I said, tomorrow I'm going to have 90 minutes of your time. Then I'm going to make you all storytellers in that amount of time, because story is a marvelous thing to actually convey your why and your customer's why. And I'd love for you to experiment with whiteboarding. Last thing, this is on you. It's your responsibility. You make a whiteboard at night, I did it, you draw something up on a piece of paper, or your customer draws something up that you say, that's awesome. What do you do with that? You'd better take a picture of it, and you'd better post it where we can see it. Just go find a wiki somewhere and put it there. Share it with us. If you have a great story, we need to share it. We're going to come up with some way that we're actually going to be able to share all these stories, but it's your responsibility to share those stories. And we'll get into more of storytelling tomorrow. So with that, I want you to be so successful, okay? And again, I look forward to talking to you more tomorrow. Thanks.